The Church of St Nectan, set among the high hedges and secret lanes of Devon's northern coastline, echoes to the sound of this week's Songs of Praise over on BBC One in 5 minutes. Here on 2 in 40 minutes, the natural world takes us, in the company of 4 adventurers aboard their homemade, steam-powered catamaran, up the Amazon in nuts in Brazil. Before that, do you remember the phrase, a license to print money, and what it was applied to? So does the Money Programme.
In the Money Programme this week, commercial television. With competition from satellite broadcasters and a shake-up of the franchise system, how will the ITV companies fare when their license to print money is withdrawn? The United States deficit and the election. How would a President Bush tackle his most daunting economic problem? Smart money. The clever plastic which could come to replace the pound in your pocket. We begin, though, with house prices. As the property boom begins to slacken, at least in the southeast, could the price of houses be about to tumble?
The government wants to shake up commercial television. Next month, a white paper will propose far-reaching changes in the way the ITV system operates. The television companies are bracing themselves for a shock, because it's not just programmes that are set to change, but the future direction of a multi-billion-pound industry.
On Coast to Coast tonight, Barlow Clough's creditors find out how much they can reclaim. Why Ferrari...
The local evening bulletin might not reveal it, but TVS, the regional ITV company broadcasting to the southeast, is getting ready for a revolution.
3, 2,
and coming
1,
to VT and
0.
cut.
It now has another face, owner of MTM, one of America's best-known production companies, makers of international hits like Hill Street Blues and St Elsewhere. The acquisition for £190 million was a bold move to safeguard the company from an uncertain future.
We are taking steps to make sure that our shareholders do not suffer by future competition. What I'm trying to build, and we've now taken a big stride down the road, is building a British international entertainment group.
In Cannes, in the south of France, TVS has yet another identity. MIPCOM, the most important international trade fair for buyers and sellers of television shows. It was acquired 2 years ago for £5 million. Pitching in the global TV market is now seen by the ITV companies as vital to survival in the tough new climate about to engulf them. It is a major shift from the old order of things. When ITV was established in 1955, it was offered a system of protection and obligations. Companies won franchises by offering to produce the best television schedules. They accepted a public service commitment, including religious programmes and special services for children and further education. The monopoly of television advertising was the prize for the new companies.
By Lavendo.
But it is an arrangement which causes little delight to the present government, whose disaffection with both monopolies and broadcasters is well known. All that will change with a white paper next month. Its objective is to expose commercial television to market forces. It is expected to recommend the abolition of the Independent Broadcasting Authority with its tight control of programming, the obligation on franchisees to make some of their own programmes, also to go the uncommercial public service programme requirement. It's likely to call for a new authority with a lighter regulatory touch, allocation of franchises through competitive cash bids, ITV companies to be open to takeover. The future of Channel 4 stays under review A proposal for a new fifth and possibly sixth channel seems likely. Till now, the debate on the government's proposals has focused largely on the impact on the quality of broadcasting. But ITV doesn't exist just to make programmes, it also exists to make profits. The big question confronting the companies is, can they hope to remain profitable? Indeed, can they survive? For they're losing the protection they've enjoyed for the past 33 years, just as big new players are preparing to muscle in on their traditional preserve. For the ITV companies, the warning lights are flashing. Are the present managers ready to face the change?
They have this sense that we were all brought up in, that ITV is public service broadcasting. Really what it did was it took money away from advertisers and gave it to programme makers. Now that it's been turned into a trade, they're going to have to get rid of a lot of those ideas, and they are going to have to be ruthless.
Mrs. Thatcher wants to see commercial television exposed to more competition. But the government cannot make any changes till 1993, when the existing franchises run out. Well before then, direct broadcast satellites beamed at the UK could be forcing ITV to live with competitive pressure.
The sky exploded over Europe.
The 4 channels of Mr. Rupert Murdoch's Sky service will be carried on the Astra satellite, which is due to be launched next year. 3 weeks ago, at a presentation for 400 advertising people, Mr. Murdoch revealed what the future held for them.
We have seen the dawn of a new age in this country of freedom for viewing and freedom for advertising, one of individual choice of information and entertainment.
In order to lure advertisers, Sky will be undercutting the going ITV rate by 25%.
There's room for everybody. There's lots of room. As you heard down there, there's too much money chasing too little commercial time at the moment.
Mr. Murdoch's presentation marked the start of Britain's first ever television space sales war.
4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to slip away and see if I can sell some advertising. Excuse me.
Media buyers, hungry for new advertising outlets, will clearly be prepared to give any new broadcaster a fair wind.
Frankly, we're looking for anything that's going to give us televisual media that we don't have to buy from the ITV companies. They've sat for too long on the monopoly, and they have become fat and complacent.
Jill, hi, it's Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I've got some good news for you.
Go on.
Clients just approved £900,000 on the alcohol-free wine we were talking
The
about.
power of the ITV sales offices is an affront to advertisers and to the government.
Yeah.
The equipment is high-tech, a strategy that of a medieval bazaar.
It's 21:30, yeah. It's centre break, one off. It's never going to be on again. I can do it now for you. Go and do it. I mean, you can justify it to your client, you know, can't you? Easy. Yeah. Okay, fine. Right, it's £3,800. Centre break.
On occasion, through a system known as preempting, the companies retain the right to cancel a booking from one advertiser if another firm offers to pay a better rate. Competition might help reduce that power to hike the rates. It could also fragment the audience, making it difficult, perhaps even more expensive for advertisers to reach them. Advertisers like Rowntree Macintosh paid a total of £1.5 billion last year to appear on television. The government believes that that figure is far too large, that the commercial TV monopoly has imposed a huge cost penalty on industry.
Well, that's one of the ads that we've been using, Ron.
For 3 years, the ad agencies and their clients have watched the television companies push up their charges at 4 times the rate of inflation.
Audiences are holding up. We would say at this stage about a 5% increase, and again, that's pretty much in line. So, all in all,
they're not recovering as much as fully as we would wish, though.
No, there's a technical boost to that figure.
What really exercises them is that as the rates have soared, the audience has fallen.
We have one major complaint, and that is the lack of audience. Yes, surely there is quite a large number of people watching out there, but compared with the audiences that we used to enjoy being able to speak to 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, they're comparatively small numbers. We are concerned that the programs that the television companies are producing are not attracting the audience in the way that they used to.
The advertisers hope that the satellites and the proposed Channel 5 will force commercial television to improve its schedules. But the ITV companies will only come under pressure when they start losing viewers and advertising revenue. The huge unknown in the equation is how many people will watch the new services. A separate dish costing at least £150 will be needed to receive transmissions from each satellite. Channel 5 will be more accessible. It will require only an additional rooftop aerial when it comes on stream in around 5 years' time. But can the new broadcasting companies afford the top-rate programmes which will be needed to lure audiences and advertisers? Blockbusters don't come cheap. The industry's view is that the programme buyers will have to dig deep into their pockets. Losses in the early years could be heavy.
With the new channels, DBS, cable and so on, the share they will get off total viewing will be small unless something quite unexpected happens, namely that they have vast amounts of money, billions, to put into programming.
Why do you think it's going to be small?
Because they will not have attractive programs which will really keep a lot of people watching those channels. They will be able to switch back to ITV, BBC and so on, where the range of programs and the quality of the programs will be higher.
As the battle for audience proceeds, the viewing figures for each channel will be collected by the market researchers from automatic meters in sample homes all over Britain. It could well be several years before the new rivals put pressure on the ITV companies. But as time passes, danger of an erosion of audience will grow. In the long term, it is unlikely that the existing commercial stations will escape unscathed.
ITV can expect to lose something like 10 to 15% of its audience share over the next 10 years. That's quite a valuable audience share in terms of the percentage points of advertising revenue that it would lose. So although the satellite channels won't be major threats, they will be eating away at ITV's profitability.
The good news for ITV and the bad news for advertisers is that basic rates per thousand viewers are unlikely to come down.
The cost of television advertising has been rising greatly, and this is not, as some people have been saying, because of the quotes monopoly of the ITV companies or of their high production costs, because production costs have nothing to do with the cost of advertisers. Cost of advertising airtime is driven by demand from the advertisers for a limited number of viewers. And one simple illustration of this kind of argument is that the cost of advertising has been rising at exactly the same rate in America, where we have enormous competition between the different networks. So having more channels will not bring the cost of airtime down.
It's a study show. 12. No, 7 housewives, but 12 kids. Your target audience is children.
The view of independent analysts is that without a general increase in the price of television space, the ITV companies will start to lose revenue at the same rate as they lose audience. That is a prospect they view with alarm.
Let's look at mid-90s. I would say that the worst-case scenario would be that the competing services will be taking around 20% of our revenue. Therefore, just taking on our last year figure, 20% could be as much as, on last year's performance, £30 million. That's a huge amount of money to take out of the programme buffer area.
According to some observers, they are simply protesting too much.
The ITV companies are, on the whole, saying, and some of them very strongly, that life is going to change for them because of the new competition, because of the new regulations that might follow the white paper. But I think the impact of that is small, given that their total income has been rising anyway. If they're going to lose 10-15% of their income to the competition, they'll be back in real terms where they were a year or two ago, when things weren't too bad.
To the advertisers, the ITV network will remain the most important channel for beaming their message to the consumer market. For the ITV companies, though their profit margins may be tighter, their franchises continue to be very valuable. But will they be allowed to hang on to them? What the ITV companies really fear most about the coming environment is the possibility that in future their franchises will be decided by money. At the moment, the franchises, the right to broadcast on the main commercial channel, are a gift of government determined on the basis of programme quality. But there is a very strong suggestion that after the white paper, They will go out to competitive tender. In other words, they will go to the highest bidder.
What the government wants to do is maximise the income to the Treasury for the use that we make of a scarce frequency and for the right we have to exercise the power of a commercial broadcaster. What that will be worth during the 8 or 10 years of the 1990s is frankly anybody's guess. The likelihood would be that you'd either bid too much or you'd bid too little. And if you bid too much, then you would spend the next few years repaying the debt, and you'd only be able to repay the debt by spending less on programs.
Faced with competitive bids by newcomers from outside the industry, the ITV companies have a serious handicap. They are strapped with large historic costs. In the past, large integrated studio facilities and skilled staff were a necessity, not a luxury. Franchises were awarded on the basis of programme-making ability. In future, however, a company like Thames could find itself bidding against a would-be publisher broadcaster, whose only production resource is a chequebook to buy in programmes off the shelf from outside producers.
The vulnerability comes from the fact that the rules are changing. The rules are changing in such a way that you may not have to have studios and production facilities. You may, in fact, be better off if you apply simply to be a commissioning organisation like Channel 4. And that means that the existing companies, with their burden of manufacturing, the factory beneath the offices, may be at a disadvantage when it comes to saying how much money they're going to put down on the table to get the contract.
The programme-making resources of Channel 4 in the West End of London are minimal. They're confined to the small sound studios from which the continuity announcements emerge.
And cue. This is Channel 4. Now we go to the studios of
Could this be the model for the future?
And Nicholas Owen for the Channel 4 News.
We run a national network with fewer than 400 staff and a fixed overhead of 10% of our income, which is a phenomenally efficient, cost-efficient way of running a television network. And undoubtedly we are the shape of the future. And I think that is the biggest conundrum for the incumbents in ITV.
For the past 18 months, the companies have been ruthlessly examining their costs. Led by the newcomer TVAM, they have begun casting aside union manning agreements which had been tolerated for 3 decades. But they say there is a limit to how far they can follow the newspaper industry and whopping eyes, strip out people and replace them with technology.
From Thames Television's point of view, probably the bulk of the cost-cutting that can be done has been done. Doesn't mean to say there's not scope for further improvement, but the bulk of it, I think, has been done. And if there is further downward pressure on costs, then if we can't cut further costs in labour and overheads, the only other place we can cut is in programme costs.
3.
ITV companies are looking more closely than ever before at their production costs. At LWT, they've embarked on a 2-year exercise to discover exactly what contribution each part of the business makes to profits. Other companies, including TVS and Central, are further down the line. Studio management, programme production, programme sales and broadcasting are now seen as 4 separate businesses. Each department is expected to match the standards of the most efficient independent production companies. But there could still be much scope for cost-cutting.
I'll buy that.
There must be from 20 to 30% of total turnover left in most of the companies to come out. And that gives them actually quite an interesting opportunity, because it doesn't have to come out for 2 or 3 years yet. If they can change now from spending that money on unnecessary practices and unnecessary, I have to say it, staff, and move that money into programs and to the buying of talent, then they will be the stronger for when the competition starts in earnest.
The ITV managements are aware that the city already has them under close and critical scrutiny. In the past, the companies have been protected from predatory takeover bids. After the white paper, that protection is likely to go. Already the predators are waiting. Among them, Mike Luckwell, with a personal fortune of £25 million from previous successful investment in the television industry. New investors could be looking for a foothold in the ITV system long before any changes in the law.
If the white paper permits predator companies to come along and acquire television franchisees, that in itself will make a rapid change in the industry, in my view, because there are a number of companies, a number of franchisees, a number of station operators who are vulnerable. Some of the existing companies who are transmitting, whether they be Thames or Granada or London Weekend, some of them are definitely open to being acquired by predator companies. They could be a target.
Why will they be a target? Because they're valuable or because they're weak?
I think that you must recognize that a franchisee is a fantastic jumping-off point for the future. If television is to go down the road of being deregulated, I think that the television industry has fantastic potential.
The immediate effect of the government's white paper could be to shift power over ITV, not to the viewers and advertisers, but to a new class of media barons. Are you interested in becoming part of the terrestrial broadcasting system?
Yes, we would be interested, but not, I think, as part of any consortium, which is probably what will win this, or as part of the existing IBA system. We have to see how the rules are going to change.
I think there are many of us who have been in television for a long time and who are interested in television, who have been in training and are all now waiting for the white paper, and it will be rather like a gun in a race. Someone will pull the trigger, and the minute the white paper is out of the bag, there are many of us that will be looking to the future.
The new generation of investors are being spurred on by a vision of a global television market, a world which already exists in embryo at MIPCOM, the annual autumn trade fair in Cannes. The big game here is packaging deals, spreading production, finance and distribution across 4 continents.
You've got the jumping, the ski jumping, which is always attractive, and it is timeless.
I'd be interested. Something like that will fit in very well with the programme. We could even sort of fit it in as not weekly, but Sunday.
It is a game where the major prizes are going to go to the big multinational operators. The ITV companies know that the imperative now is to grow or be swallowed.